Okay, everybody agree?
Other
Yep.
glasses.
And I'm just gonna go down my list. Meeting call to order. Heidi, yes. Brock Cadero, not here. Dave Cunha,
Here. Hi.
Terry Ham,
Yeah.
Sean McDonald.
Here.
Steve Mello,
Here,
Brian O'Hare. I don't see. Chris
He emailed
O'Neill.
me saying he was not coming tonight.
Oh, okay, thank you. Chris O'Neill
Here.
and Mary Waite.
Here.
Yay, hi, Mary.
Hi.
All right, for our non-voting members, Sean McGinnis,
Here.
Anthony Stavasano.
Yep.
Cody
Here.
and Melanie, thank you for taking notes.
Here. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a good meeting.
Bye,
All
John.
right, John.
Good
Okay,
night.
Sean, take care.
Sean, take
Yes,
care,
Sean.
Sean.
So sorry.
I sent an email just before the meeting started to everyone. A
Mhm.
reminder of the dates that we want to review, but also letting everyone know about Sean's sister passing. He came on tonight, just so that we could make sure we had a quorum. But given what he's experiencing right now, he's not staying with us.
Right.
All right, the first thing we will do is look at the meeting minutes. Now, these were sent to us. Melanie sent them and then Anthony sent them again. So we should be able to find them.
Mhm.
They were from the April 28th meeting. Did
Right.
anyone see? Sorry, this is a night when I wish I had multiple screens. Did anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about those minutes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they're here and they look fine.
All right, so would somebody
Make a motion?
make a motion?
I'll make a
I'll sec-
motion.
I'll second it.
Great, Mary made a motion and David seconded it. And now we will accept by an oral vote. Heidi, yes, I accept them. I'm just gonna go with the folks that are actually here. Dave Cunha,
Accepted, yes.
Terry Ham,
Yes.
Steve Mello,
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't at that meeting. We just got,
thank you. Chris O'Neill
Yes.
and Mary Waite,
Yes.
thank you.
Actually,
Eh,
You know what? I'll
I'm
have
sorry.
to. I was also not at that meeting, so just,
Oh,
sorry about that.
okay. Thank you. All right. Before we get into the meat of our meeting, I just want to review the dates that I had proposed. And I went all the way to June. So if there are dates that you know now aren't going to work for you, let us know. And of course, later on, something certainly may come up. Our next meeting would be December 22nd. Anthony will have just returned if he returns from his vacation. Maybe he won't be allowed back in.
Maybe I want to come back in.
May not be able to. Your pina colada level may not be, allow you to.
It's
Does
crazy the
any-
number of tests I have to take before I go, when I get back, on the way back. It's ridiculous.
Anyone else on the 22nd? That's a problem?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Looking in January, I proposed both January 12th and January 26th.
Yep.
I am not available on the 26th, but you can certainly have a quorum without me.
We have a vice chair.
Brock, but it looks like I'm going to need to inquire because he,
If he's not going to come, we might want to reconstitute the committee so that we have 7 instead of 8, and therefore 4 is a quorum. So
yeah,
we're not held up with quorum
Right.
issues.
I have not heard from him since the summer.
Okay. Because he's missed a few, hasn't he? I think along the way.
I only remember him being at 1 or 2. but-
So I will put that on for myself. Um, looking in February, we had the 9th and the 23rd. March 9th and 23rd
23rd, I'll be out of the country. I'm going away.
Yeah,
in March.
March.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be away on the 9th.
I like the calendar.
Eddie, is there a reason why we don't go with the first and third Wednesday? Was there a conflict with somebody?
Anthony had a conflict on the 3rd.
Yeah, but that
Wednesday of the
doesn't, that
month.
hasn't happened in a while. That committee kind of fell apart.
Okay,
Sound
'Cause I-
familiar?
I tend to have the second Wednesday of each month, and then 2 weeks later, I have a problem just about every month. But it seems like that's where most of these are falling, on the second Wednesday, and then it would be skip the third and then the fourth, if I'm counting these correctly.
mm-hmm.
And
I
again,
will,
I don't want
So
to get
you-
into a problem where everything's changed just for me, but. I'm
No,
just-
no, that's fine, Steve, because I had a perennial meeting then, which that committee stopped, so we can.
and that's why we
we
avoided
can
the
adjust
3rd.
accordingly to fit to, because I'd rather have bodies, so we're not having the problem we
Yeah.
had last meeting.
So on March 2nd, if we went with the 1st, that would be back to back. However, March 2nd is Ash Wednesday.
Mhm.
So
Doesn't bother
that's
me.
probably an issue.
Not
So
for me,
why
it's
don't we
not.
say in March, the 16th, which is the 3rd? That happens to be a month with 5 Wednesdays.
Right.
So let's go to the 16th.
It would be, hold on.
Heidi, I just
Yeah.
want to like, February 23rd is school vacation week. We should be back Tuesday. I don't know if that ends up being a conflict for anyone. We're away Tuesday. We'll be home the 23rd, but I don't know that anybody else is in that same. I think we might be clear on that if I was the only one that was in that
Oh,
situation.
Okay,
But I'm home, so I should be able
all
to make
right.
that.
So I would propose the 16th and the 30th of March,
That's
which
fine.
would be the 3rd and 5th
Mhm.
Wednesdays of that month.
Okay.
Okay, and
Um,
we don't have to go any further than that. I mean, that's being,
Yeah. Good idea.
I know that we avoided the dates I have, 13 and 27, happen to avoid April vacation.
Right. Yeah, I'll be away April vacations. I know that. So I'm gonna hold off on the June dates. I will say, I mean, to your point, as we get into there with, other committees that I'll have, so we're, with the school committee, so I think it'd be great because I don't know those yet. So if we can-
Okay,
I think that's great. Or April.
all right, so we will go as far as those change dates in March
Okay,
for now.
Sounds good.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so tonight we are starting our work on Article 6, which is also something that came to you as an attachment.
Yep.
So in Article 6 is general provisions. So some of it, as long as we're doing what it says, we should be okay. So 6.1, elections. This piece was amended by the town meeting on 6/3/2014 and approved April 7th, 2015, which became in Section A, date of election. First Tuesday of April for the purposes of electing officers and determining all matters to be decided by voters by ballot. Now, it looks like B, Section B, ballots was moved from Section 3-1 and edited to ensure that more than officers are included and inserted for discussion purposes. It was drafted 10 years ago. We don't know why it was adopted. This was a committee motion. from last
Why it wasn't,
review.
why it wasn't adopted, yeah.
Why wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I threw it in there because it was discussed last time. So I thought you might want to review it. I
Okay,
could
so
not
let's look
find
at
anywhere
this.
in my notes as to why it was not adopted.
The regular town election shall be taken on official ballots without party or political designations of any kind. The names of candidates for each elected position that is enumerated in section 3.1, paragraph A and B, as well as a portion of the town meeting member and including candidates for re-election to any such position shall be arranged according to random lottery beneath the name of the position. Each candidate for re-election shall have printed on the official ballot, in addition to such candidate's name and address, the words candidate for re-election. So currently it is candidates for re-election and then alphabetical order, or alphabetical order and the candidate for re-election is within the alphabetical order.
Okay.
And this would be a random lottery, this proposal.
That was, again, that was proposed 10 years ago, not adopted. I don't know why. I don't know if you guys think it's a good idea or not, but I put it in there so you could discuss it.
Anthony, do you know if the state has guidelines on ballots?
They do, but we can amend it so we have our own.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if it was why. this would be
I
added.
do know that,
We don't have to. We can just follow what the state says. Again,
I
it
do
was,
know there's a
somebody
group in
brought
New
it up
Bedford
for
looking
discussion
at this
purposes.
same
Somebody thought
thing.
it was a good idea back then, but it wasn't adopted. I don't know. I don't remember how far it went. There were a lot of committee motions that ultimately were not adopted, so I don't have a recollection as to why.
Was the guy who wanted to adopt it named Andrews or Adams? or something?
Yeah.
no, I'd say the guy that wants to adopt it would be named
Was Zukowski.
Zukowski or Ziegler, yeah.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
certainly that is problematic for people who are going to be at the end of the alphabet. I do know this has been something that when we have enough interest in our elections, had been a problem years ago in those popular precincts when you had to vote for 9, say, and they were in alphabetical order, and those poor people in the end of the alphabet with 16 names on the list would never get in because people would just go down for those first 9, say.
I feel that pain as Mary waits. I'm just gonna share.
I would think you would.
So
And-
you have to recuse yourself because you're a dub. No, just kidding.
Well, and it may be why Heidi Silva married someone named Brooks to get the edge up
That's
on the
Say
ballot.
what I data name, leave him alone. Come on.
That's right. May want to hyphenate that, Mary.
I don't know. How much do I want to stand? I'm kidding. I mean, I will defer to whatever you guys think. I don't have a strong opinion on this. I
I
mean,
think, I don't know what the mechanism of creating that lottery would look like. I
Yeah.
hate to think that we create a lottery and then people think that somehow we have mucked it up. Or
Right.
can the lottery piece, but I certainly see that
Right.
there, if you're voting, unfortunately, when we are voting for vote for 2 and there's only 1 name on the ballot, or vote for 15 and there's only 11 on the ballot, it doesn't matter. We're
Right.
thinking that these are for times when more people are running for the positions than the available positions. And I
Right.
don't
do see that.
know if that needs to be stated somehow so that we're not doing everything random all the time.
Does it say who would do the lottery? I'm just trying to go back to this. Like who actually
No.
run? Is that going to be
Or it'd be the clerk's office, wouldn't
the
it?
clerk's
Yeah.
office, right?
So we should probably have Sarah in to discuss this item if it's something that the committee really wants to evaluate.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So
All
we
right,
don't,
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put hold. Talk to Sarah. I do know that this is something that's being discussed in New Bedford because they've had some recent elections, particularly on school committee, where they were voting for a number of people. They had more than that, and the 3 people that got on with those first 3 names. And that
Mhm.
was an issue for person number 4 and 5, I think.
I can see that.
Um,
And not everybody knows the people that are, certainly running as their, for their precincts. So I can, you just go down, and if a name seems somewhat familiar, and again, I can understand that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be nice to think that we had so many people interested in running
Mm.
that we could give a fair shot to the people who end up with the, end of the alphabet.
We'll get back there. You never know.
Yeah.
We're gonna,
All right, so I've got a hold on 6.1.
Okay.
6.2 charter change. So it says this charter may be replaced, revised, or amended in accordance with any procedure that are available under the Constitution of the Commonwealth or any statute that are enacted to implement the same.
That's just grammar change.
that sounds,
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
6.3.
I tend to be a grammar Nazi. That's why
Yeah.
if you catch me on something, I get embarrassed.
I can't figure out how to make mine any bigger. It's like fairy font.
Be held.
Well,
No.
for me, 6.3 is mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, a little bit for me too.
Typical
It's a
contract
stand-
language.
It's pretty standard, I think, for contract and,
Yeah, that's what it
It just,
says.
it basically says you don't want to invalidate the charter. So
right,
if the court says this section is illegal, you're not gonna make the whole charter illegal. You just take out that illegal section. That's what it means.
Excellent.
That's what I read. That sounds, yeah.
Okay, rules of construction.
we're going in dangerous waters there.
Well, number A, I will say this, is exactly what it has been since the initial charter in 2000. That wording.
Hmm.
Things are a lot different in 2000 than they are today.
I know,
Because again, we now have,
gender neutral.
exactly.
Shall
So I-
include any gender?
probably-
If we remove the word feminine and replace it with any, are we being overly politically correct or whatever the term might be?
But I think that's safe. If you just say any gender, then you just kind of, someone's gonna have to be pretty nitpicky to go back and say they object to us saying any. I don't know.
I
think that-
do think there will be somebody that says they also don't like the fact that we used a masculine gender, but I don't think,
Well, no, it's saying if the word has a mask. Yeah, I mean,
right,
right now,
Yeah.
nobody's created a gender neutral term that I'm aware of that's been generally accepted.
that
pronoun.
isn't confusing to somebody else. So
Yeah,
I
I
do, I do think that if we remove the feminine word and put in any gender,
I
Does
think-
this
or all
paragraph-
genders shall include all genders.
Does this paragraph have to be included? Can the whole paragraph be removed?
Well, aren't you covering those times that you do use? I know when I write, sometimes it's, to write his, her, that, when I'm trying to
Yeah.
refer from a student, it's awkward. So I think you're trying to cover those where you're just making
We're just
that.
saying, yeah, we're just saying, we didn't mean to, we're not excluding anybody just because we
Right.
used a certain gender term.
Yeah.
I didn't make the language, I just tried to clean it up.
Is the language in here because at one time we only referred to men in these positions? And so now this was
Yeah, well,
added. I'm just wondering, what is the point of the paragraph? Does it have to be in there?
I think it should be, I don't know, search for is he or him or it, or his anywhere in the document? If it's not, we can get rid of the paragraph. If it
Can we-
is, then.
yeah.
I
I
think
would
we don't need it.
It goes
Right,
I
back
think
to, I
we're
think,
probably safe to have it,
yeah.
because then we've said why we're using, if we use a gender, it's masculine, and that includes all genders.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we,
Makes sense.
But I'd say let's drop shall
Somebody-
include, get rid of the feminine and just say all genders.
Why don't we write, and words importing a specific gender shall include all genders, instead of writing masculine? Can we do that?
Oh, yeah,
If words import a specific gender shall include, that way we're not just saying everything's gonna automatically masculine, and we can just say a specific gender shall include all genders.
Heidi, before we
The
move
the
on,
words
can I just
employing
ask-
any gender shall include all gender.
yes,
Yes,
Terry.
exactly.
Yep, I just had a question back
I
about
like that.
A. Is there a reason that we have an election in April and not just try to combine them with other elections? I'm just wondering why we have them twice a year if we have.
'Cause you
an
can't have
election.
them on the state ballot.
Say that again?
You can't have them on the state ballot.
Oh, really?
Which is November.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, Terry, I think the reason it's in April, maybe we talked about this, is to have the newly elected town meeting members ready for the town meeting in June. And I think with notifications, I remember going through this with the last election with Sarah, so I think that's why it's in April and not later.
Okay, I was more curious about, it seems like a lot for the clerk's office to be setting up 2 elections in the same year if there was a way to combine it. But if the reason is that they can't be on the state ballot, then
Hmm.
I didn't know that. Thanks.
Okay. I just made note of that within the notes. Okay, let's look down at section 6.4 B, computation of time.
That's, language is also standard with the trial court and I think general court.
And looking back at 20 of 2000, all Anthony has done is just clean up. So under C, reference to general laws. Redundant to the definition.
Yeah, we don't need it because it's, we address in the definitions section, section 1.
Okay. And D, specific provision to prevail, and all we've done is cleaned it up.
That looks great. Thank you, Anthony.
All right, 6-5, rules and regulations.
Again, no substantive changes.
Mhm.
I made a note here. I'm trying to figure, it's been so long, I'm trying to figure out what I was thinking myself. How will people know of a change to challenge it?
Regulations are supposed to be posted with prior notice and a hearing, public hearing. I don't know if that answers the question as to how you would challenge it. Once it's enacted.
Right, for instance, if the Board of Health was going to update the Title V regs, they have a notice, they have a hearing on it, and then they vote at the meeting. So that's how they would know.
Well,
They'd have to-
I'm, the only piece I'm going to say, and I do know that that's how these progress, but attested copies of all such filed rules and regulations shall also be kept and made available in the public library. That's archaic. I think we have to say here, on the town website.
Where are you?
Fine to have, so this section goes on to the next page, section
Mhm.
6-5.
Yeah, that is archaic.
That, yeah. I mean,
Right.
it's fine to have it there. And maybe there needs to be also in the town clerk's office. I mean, maybe paper copies need to be at certain places, but it needs to be on the website.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we're assuming that,
Well, they are at the town clerk. It says they're filed with the office of the town clerk.
Up there, yeah. And that previous sentence.
Mhm.
so we're assuming that the committee or the board that changes their rule will have a rule in place to make sure that the public is aware of the change.
They have to change, they have to post the meeting where they discuss and vote on the change.
Does town meeting have to vote on any change in the
Not
last?
for regulations, only bylaws. Town meeting controls bylaws. The specific boards control their own regulations.
I just keep coming back to how the general public will know of the change, other than trying to find the minutes and
Yeah, I mean, generally, you know, a good example is Monday, the select board will be setting the tax rate. So they, and this goes back to earlier, the advertising of hearings and meetings and, you know, and it says in, you know, local newspapers, but nobody reads the newspaper anymore.
Right.
Goes back to really how do you get the word out on things, and that gets difficult. But, you know, generally, you have a hearing, there's a notification and a publication. And, you know, generally we put that on the website as well through the agenda. You know, we have this discussion a lot. It's really, you know, we have an issue with communication. We try to get the word out to everybody, but there's so many different means of communication right now that everybody, you can't satisfy everybody, because somebody's like, well, why didn't you put it here? Or why isn't it here? Or why aren't you calling me on the phone? So, you know, the website is probably the best place to do that. Or, you know, we have our engagement portal now that we're hoping that kind of supersedes that a little bit because it's more interactive. But yeah, I don't know how you, but it's really up to the citizens to really make an effort to determine, you know, that they want to find out the information. So, and the website is really the best place to do that. In the past, maybe it was the library. They could go there and look for information, but nowadays it's websites.
So how are we gonna write that, I guess, is that, you know, because it seems that it's in
Yeah,
flux.
I think through the course of this, we've talked about this as we've added on the website
Okay.
to access information. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, okay.
And I think in the end, we may have to put a, you know, a blanket statement at the beginning of the document that states something along that line. Especially if the engagement portal catches on, but even if it's, we just say it's posted on the website can have a link to the engagement portal. And
Right.
It's exactly what it does. So the engagement portal really has it links back to the website. So it's got some information, but for the more detailed information, we link it back to the website. So yeah.
Okay.
We have, I have like two neighbors who are both kind of active in the government and what we're doing in the town, and neither one of them have capability to get onto a website. Can we say something like a transitional type thing that they'll be on the website, on a website, but it will also remain available in the public library?
I'm glad you said that, because I've attended a meeting actually recently where people were mad that they were expected to go to the website. So to have it redundant makes a lot of sense, to have it on the website and to have it in a paper copy where if somebody wants it, they can get it.
Right. I was under the impression that we would say and make available in the public library and on, you know, the,
town website.
you know, just include it rather than, you know, remove that, because again, having the paper copies available. I mean, I have parents who certainly are not, you know, they're not on websites either. So,
Well, I
Very-
think, I think too, although it says that it has been filed in the office of the town clerk, I think it also makes sense maybe that we say in the public library and at town hall.
Mhm.
I mean, everything should be available at town hall.
right.
Anthony, are there regulations that a board would develop that weren't based on changes in state law and regulation? I wouldn't think that there would be.
Conservation comes to mind. Shellfish
they-
regulations,
They
waterways
can develop
regulation.
their own. Okay, it's not
Yes.
based on state law. I always
Not
thought the
necessarily.
regulation was based on law.
Well, they
No,
have
the-
to be, they have to have the authority to create regulations, but the perfect example was when we were trying to stop the capping of the landfill. We created COM 97 regulations through the Board of Health, prohibiting them from being transferred through the town. That just blew up. Everybody gets so crazy about that. There's nothing that says you can create COM 97 regulations, but there is a general regulation power granted to the Board of Health to regulate public health. So I'm not sure, does that answer your question?
It does, because then they would need to have, I was trying to,
Yeah, they need to have some statutory authority. Yeah, they can't just, the harbor master can't regulate what I do in my backyard. You know what I mean? He regulates certain things by statute.
Shellfish is a good example. Their state may allow the entire town open to harvest shellfish, but the town may want to manage closure of certain areas for replenishment of the stock. So the regulation would close off, say, north of the bridge. But the town says, you can't go there. The state says it's okay to go there. The town regulation would prevail. That's just
Oh.
one example.
Okay.
What about the changes to, say, the construction standards for the DPW? You have a DPW board that's in place. The standard, a change to the standard gets made to their board. It's voted upon and they change the regulation. So what you're saying is that change in regulations to the construction standard would be posted with the town clerk and the library. But I'm just wondering how, if you're in the construction business, you're made aware, other than
You pay attention.
checking the
That's really,
town. I mean, how do you check a website every week to make sure that you're not breaking the law?
I think ideally, the town would have a sign up where if you're a builder and you want to know about changes to building codes, or you're in construction, subscription, I think is the right word. I'm not real tech savvy myself, but there are places where we subscribe for any information published relative to what we're doing. And I don't know if the town has that yet, but I think we're moving in that direction.
We do have it and we do use it, but I mean, it's really, I don't think the Board of Public Works is using it. I can tell you that.
I mean, every time a law changes, if they change the speed limit, they don't have to, the police don't have to call you and say, we changed the speed limit. I mean, there's some people have to pay attention.
Right.
If they're in the industry, they should be paying attention, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And if you're in that industry, you know where to go to look for that information.
What do they say? Ignorance of the law?
If you put in septic systems, then you pay attention to the Board of Health regulations and you go and check them out periodically.
Well, plus you have to get a permit, correct? So your permit, so I would, in
Right.
theory, every time you get a permit, you're going to understand the regulations if they've changed. Should be privy at that during the permitting process to what those change. I mean, I would think, again, not in my wheelhouse, but I would think.
Well, Anthony brings up a good point. So Title V, which is the state's septic system bylaw, they update that periodically. And they don't send out notices to anyone. They update it on their website and it's there. And the towns get notification of it probably through an email. And that's it. So unless the people that use Title V regularly, septic designers, if they don't know, then they'll submit a plan that doesn't meet the most current code, and the Board of Health are responsible to update them and educate them.
Right.
All right, so it would be up to the individual boards to post the change that they've filed with the clerk on their particular website.
Correct.
If I'm not working with the Board of Health, I'm working with DPW or one of the other departments on a regular basis. And I just have that one website to worry about. As long as they're posting the updates, I think that's, I know you're supposed to be aware of everything, but at the end of the day, if things are changing consistently,
Mhm.
you know, you know, people can't be expected to run into the town hall every time they pull a permit to get a job done either. You know,
No, but the town clerk uses a company, most municipalities use general code. And their responsibility is for organizing your bylaws and your charter. And so when bylaws are changed, they're updated and they're dated. So someone, if they really want to know what's changed, they could just do a search by date, show me everything that's been changed in the bylaw since this date.
But bylaws have to be voted on by town meeting, right? So that's
Correct.
if regulations don't have to be voted on by town meeting, I get the post and say, we're gonna be reviewing these regulations and having them at the meeting. Are those in E-code? Are the regulations in E-code? No.
No, no, no.
So it comes down to a notice on the website or someplace saying, be aware, these regulations are changing, public comment, contact the department administrator, and then they can go ahead and do it. And people just have to.
Yeah, I mean, when we updated the building department, we updated a number of fees last year. It's really, you know, we go to the select board meeting, town meeting, and, you know, you get the word out. And we did posting in plenty of time. So it was voted on at town meeting, but not implemented until July 1. So that's, you know, so you try to do the best you can to get the notice out as best as possible, but sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, time.
So if the Board of Health makes a change, they want to change one of the regulations, they post it with the town clerk's office, and it'll become effective within 10 days until 10 days has lapsed since it's filed. So the Board of Health wouldn't actually post that on their site until it's past the 10 days, I would assume. So if I'm in that business and I'm trying to figure out, you know, what proposed changes there are, I guess what I'm saying is how would people be able to figure out what changes is being proposed so they could come back and say, listen, in the real world, this is how it's done.
You can go to you look at the minutes of the meetings and the
Or the-
agendas, because
or the
it's on
agenda,
every agenda. The topic is on.
So
So-
is it conceivable that, for example, the DPW could construct a regulation that could significantly change things and just post it, and then in 10 days it becomes regulation? They don't have to
Well,
go through a public comment?
Yeah, they
Okay.
do. No, well, it's not a public comment period. They posted there the hearing and people can go to the meeting and discuss it.
And that's the only opportunity for feedback that people would have.
Yeah.
Or you annoy people so much that they show up at the next Board of Public
Yeah,
Works
no
meeting and
kidding.
ask to put it on the agenda to review it. That's generally what happens too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, or a challenge to the regulation, but
Hello?
Yep, go ahead, Mary.
Oh, no. I think everything got quiet for a second. No, I'm good. Sorry.
We're just a quiet group.
But I will say from school committee's point, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, we post our agenda. And then if it's on the agenda during public comment, people can speak to that topic during public comment, and then we vote. So, I mean, there is a point that, you know, we've posted the agenda. And if that's something you're passionate about, but you missed it on the agenda, I mean, certainly you can write us, you know, letters and everything else, and then we can decide if we're gonna put it on the agenda, but the time to speak about it was when it was actually a posted agenda item. So, you know, I think it circles back to the public having to, you know, if that's a topic of interest and their industry is focused around that topic, then they do need to be aware of, you know, the Board of Health. If, you know, if they anticipate in the next year, there's going to be a, you know, specific issue, you know, again, I mean, that's just how I think there has to be some self awareness or responsibility on the part of the public to some degree. I mean, you know, the after the fact, I mean, you know, it is a challenge to get all this information out. I don't know. I mean, I think there has to be some personal responsibility in it too. And then, you know, to get back, I mean, we do have the fallout after the fact, and, you know, if there's enough pushback, then you respond accordingly. But I don't know. I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, and I know from years of attending school committee meetings and other meetings, that is a frustration when you feel like you know, it's something I am passionate about, so I've paid attention, and now people are coming in
Right,
after the 11th hour has passed saying, wait a minute, I never knew about this.
right.
Unfortunately, I think it is what it is.
No, I
And,
know,
you know,
I'm just saying,
you know,
I don't
we
know how
can-
you solve that.
Right,
discrepancy, though.
we tried all kinds of things to make sure people would be aware of, you know, items that were going to be on different committees' dockets,
Right.
but, you know, short of making a phone call to everyone to make sure that they've gotten the information. Some onus, as you've said, has got to be on the individual who says they have an interest in that.
Well, because we have such an oversupply of information coming at people that I think it becomes noise if you don't, you know, so again, getting back to that, it's going to be published on the website. And if you need to look there, you know, because otherwise there's only so many mechanisms, you know, as long as people know, as long as we're offering, I think as a town, a central spot for people to find their content, if they're looking,
Mhm.
I think that's the best that, again, I don't want to say it's the best we can do, but I don't know how else, because we're going to constantly run into this, you know,
Yeah.
we're no longer with, you know, 3 networks. There's internet, there's everything else. So I don't know. I think I think we have to be reasonable in what we can accomplish.
Mhm.
And that's why the engagement portal has been actually pretty successful in that it allows more interaction with the residents. You know, they set up an account, but they can ask questions or look for information, and it's
Right.
not, they're not asking it on Facebook. They're asking it through the
Yeah.
portal, and we're able to answer them accurately and share it with the public. So if we get enough enough requests, if people are looking for information, you know, we monitor that, and we're saying, well, a lot of people are looking for this information. We should make it more available or
That's
make
good.
it easier to access. So it's been a great tool for that. We're just trying to get more people to sign up for it, and they have been, and it's been nice. Just Bliss Corner, we have a Bliss Corner meeting tomorrow night.
Oh, good. Yeah, I
We
saw
got
that.
really short notice from the EPA, but the people that had accessed the portal, we have their information. We were able to send that out to them right away, so they all got
I
a
was
message.
gonna give that as an example, because I've signed up for all the board information on the website, but I never get any emails saying this is gonna be discussed, or this is the agenda. If there's a way for people to actually access it that way, you could just, you know, appear. I think the problems come like when you said the DPW doesn't use the same systems that everybody else does. That's a big problem for the town. And I don't know if that's something that can go in the charter, but the DPW is what, it's gonna affect everybody in the town. You know,
Yeah.
so I think that's more concerning, but I think if it's town clerk on the website, and then, you know, hard copies if people request it, that's fair. I don't think we need to do more than that.
Sean, who actually runs your engagement portal? I'm just, you know, so do you have an employee who does that, like, for you? I mean, I got to think about that as something that the schools are struggling with too,
Yeah.
that, you know, people turn to Facebook when that becomes problematic because there's a void there.
Yeah, right now, it's myself, Cody, and we have an intern who's been helping with our scanning project, but she is getting her master's in data science at
Oh,
UMass
cool.
Dartmouth. So she's been exceptional. So she's been really doing a lot of the setup. So we've given her the content, and she's been great about getting the word out. You know, ideally in this day and age, I mean, a town that really wants to get the message out has a communications manager that really is tasked with, you know, all things about getting the word out and organizing it in a way that, you know, it stays on it and keeps it fresh. So, I mean, that's ultimately down the road, but for the short term, it's the 3 of us, and, you know, Melanie has been helpful too. So we just try to, you know, add as much content that's accurate and provide quick feedback. But, you know, the school could certainly do that. I think you could identify a handful of people that could contribute.
But it's tough. I mean, I saw New Bedford schools were actually hiring communications managers as well. I mean, again, it's a much larger district, you know, and it's, you know, it's tough when you're stretched with, you know, again, I'm just, you know, thinking of it as it's a challenge for our town, I think, is in this day and age to, you know, create those venues for communications. I see it in the schools. So,
Right.
but
Well, we've just talked about it. There's so many means of getting the word out and communication, whether it's the newspaper or Twitter or, you know, Facebook. So, you know, how do we manage that? And I think you're going to see that more and more. There's the towns, even small towns, will have a communications manager
Right.
Just because there's so many avenues to get information out. So we'll
Right.
see.
You make a good point, and also what Terry was saying as far as if boards are not using the same format. And I think when we look at this document, there's some things in this document that we've said as we're going through it. Is this how these groups function? Or is this the way they're supposed to function and they're not functioning that way? And who's going to call them out on it? And I think once we go through the whole thing and then read a completed document with all changes, I think it's something we have to look at to say, who is going to be the responsible party to make sure that they are doing it as stated, that we've captured it that way. And I think another piece is going to be communications there needs to be a central point for communications. And you're absolutely right. People ask too many questions on Facebook, and too many people who do not have the correct answer those questions. And I do think it was something that the school department addressed when we talked about if we had, an emergency, that the piece where everyone would get the correct information was going to be the Facebook posts or the website of the school department, not the principals, not, a teachers, but it would have to be the superintendent's responsibility to get the correct message out. And so I think that this engagement portal may be what we need for the town.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it has tremendous potential. Just,
Yeah.
as I look at the issues, because again, the tough thing with Facebook is you don't want to have people engaging in a negative feedback conversation. That's kind of where I always get a little concerned, is that, so you don't want to say that you don't want to have no comments, but in some cases, depending on the topic, I mean, again, some are less inflammatory than others, but I guess we just left quite an inflammatory period. So you don't want to force our principals to get into debate with parents
Right.
or Facebook about whether or not kids should be wearing masks. I mean, that's what you want to
Yeah.
avoid, but you want to get that information out. So,
All right, let's take a look. So that was 6-5.
okay.
So looking into 6-6, certificate of election or appointment, every person who is elected, including by town meeting vote or appointed to an office of the town, shall receive a certificate of such election or appointment from the town clerk.
Okay.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Except as otherwise provided by law, before performing any act under an appointment or election, all such persons shall take and subscribe to an oath of office and be sworn in to faithful performance of their duties. I don't know why that would have been removed. But that is certainly what has happened. I know I've been elected to town meeting, appointed to other boards, and I've had to go in to take an oath.
Yes,
Um,
all the
You
boards. and
also have to
committees,
take
yes.
the ethics.
And the ethics, yeah.
The ethics test that you can't fail, that's my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, man. I love that.
And the piece that really kills me is when you're into it and you're reading and you think that this should be definitely something, and it says, well, you could always write for an exemption. Well, why are we doing this?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I think I would agree with Anthony. I don't know why that would be removed. That is something we do have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
I think that-
person who is elected.
I think gives some solemnity to the role that you're taking on. It's kind of an important step of, showing that this is,
Making the commitment.
yeah.
All
I would
right,
agree. Let's leave it in.
I think let's put it in, yeah. All right, let's move on to 6.6-7, which is the periodic review charter and bylaws. And first, this is us, so let's look at this. Charter review, at least once in every 10 years, beginning in 2010 and thereafter, each year ending in a 0, a special committee shall be established for the purpose of reviewing this charter and making a report to the town meeting concerning any proposed amendments. Then said committee may determine to be necessary or desirable. The committee shall consist of 9 members who shall be chosen as follows: the select board, the finance committee, and the school committee shall each appoint 2 persons. The planning board shall appoint 1 person, and the town moderator shall appoint 2 persons. Such may, but need not be members of the town agency making the appointment. The committee shall meet to organize forthwith following the final adjournment of the annual town meeting.
Anthony, did you want to change that number? As you were talking about members who wouldn't be able to, so we can make the quorum more attainable?
We only have 8, right? It says so.
It says 9, so I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
no, but we only have 8, right?
Wait,
I don't. I
No,
mean,
we had 9 when we started.
we have 9.
Oh, we did?
And
We
I
just
thought
don't-
that, I thought the number 9 was set by statute under the charter. General
It might
laws.
be set if there's an elected charter commission. I don't think
Okay.
you're required to have an appointed charter commission by statute, an appointed charter committee.
Well,
Excuse
this
me.
one is appointed. There are 9. And I do think it makes sense that the select board, finance and school committee,
Hey, Lucas.
they all get 2, planning board gets 1, and town meeting appoints 2. I would think if you felt that it needed to be reduced,
Town moderator appoints to.
a town moderator, sorry, appoints 2.
I'm not
I
saying it
mean-
needs to be reduced. I was just talking about we're having a problem getting a quorum. Well,
Right.
actually, we only did it once, right?
Right, that was only one time, and I do think, I mean, when they reorganized the planning board, Steve Taylor got off and Chris came right on. So I think that's helpful. If there's if something should happen with the finance committee, or select board, I think it's also important that it says that the agency making the appointment, they may not need to be members of the town agency making the appointment. I'm appointed from school committee. I'm not on school committee. So I think even if somebody was elected off, the committee could say they could still be the representing that group.
Right.
There wouldn't have to be too many changes.
Yeah, my only thought on that was the 9 members would be good if there's a hot button issue, I think that comes up, and the responsibility can be spread out a little bit more.
Mhm.
I like cleaning it up the way that it's been cleaned up here, and I have no problem with the 9.
I'm just reading section 6 of Mass General Law 43B, and it says a charter commission shall consist of 9.
Right,
And
but
then
we're
goes
not,
on-
this is a committee, not a commission. The charter commission is elected, right?
But the question of electing a commission shall be placed on the ballot. So I'm just trying to see if they distinguish between.
The weird thing about that, though, is the last line says the committee shall meet to organize forthwith following the final adjournment of the annual town meeting. I don't really see how town meeting impacts this. It should be started in January of the year ending in 0. I don't know how, since we're not elected, we're appointed. I don't know how the adjournment of the annual town meeting. Because there's nothing happened at the town. Did we vote? Did the town meeting members vote?
No, the process is this committee reviews the charter, recommends charter amendments to town meeting as articles, And then once they go through town meeting, then that's the adjournment that's the charter committee's done.
So the committee shall meet to organize forthwith following the final adjournment of the annual town meeting.
Yes, that's when they get together after.
Right, but should it be, that's when we conclude? The work of the committee concludes at the adjournment of the annual town meeting where the town meeting members vote on what we suggested?
That would be where we're done in normal circumstances.
Let's see, I'm trying to find it here.
Town meeting doesn't have to vote to do a charter review, right?
No,
No.
not to do the review, no.
That would be the only reason, I think, if you needed their permission.
But we're doing it every 10 years. I mean, that's kind of written into that's what we're
So
adjusting.
I'm
It's-
wondering if the committee dissolves.
What does
After
the final
they-
adjournment
meeting.
mean?
Yeah, I did a write-up. Let's see.
Yeah. I hope we don't get to the final adjournment of town meeting.
That's when we have a mayor.
You're right.
Yeah. I'll share, I did a write-up for the select board to form the committee, just kind of updating them on the process. I'll find that and I'll share it with everyone because it really kind of walked through what the process was. I'm trying to find it now.
So I am going to just put a hold on that, just for that last line, because it just doesn't seem to make sense. But it's 7:03 and I want to get a little further into this. So let's go down to the bylaw committee, which we are not the bylaw committee. That is another committee. So bylaw review, in each year that ends in a 5 or a 0, the select board shall cause to be prepared by a bylaw review committee that has been appointed for that purpose, a proposed revision or recodification of all general laws of the town. Said proposal shall be presented to the town meeting for approval at the annual town meeting in the year following the year in which the said committee is appointed. So that would be the years ending in 6 and 1. The bylaw review committee shall consist of the town clerk, who shall serve by virtue of office, 2 representative town meeting members appointed by the town moderator, and 2 persons appointed by the select board. The said committee, in its final or in an interim report, shall include recommendations for substantive change in town bylaws as it deems necessary or advisable. The review of town bylaws shall be in conjunction with the town council. Wait a minute, I can't.
Yep,
I've got it so big.
town council.
So conflicts with town council bylaw. All right, so this conflicts with town council bylaw.
Wait, what?
The little comment that Anthony has to the side.
Oh, right. I see it now. Okay. So Anthony, what do you want to, is there something that you want to comment on that right there?
Well, that's why I struck it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that line that's out, okay.
Good.
Subsequent to.
You
an
can't, in
act-
other words, they can't,
Yeah.
there's procedures by which you retain special
Right,
counsel.
right.
Okay. Subsequent to enactment by the town meeting, copies of the revised bylaw shall be forwarded to the Attorney General of the Commonwealth for approval, and they shall be otherwise published, all as required by the general laws or any special law. Copies of the revised bylaws shall be made available for distribution to the public at a charge not to exceed the actual cost per copy of reproduction. Have we ever
Yeah.
had a time where in between this 5-year review, there has been some emergency bylaw change needed?
Yes. At town meeting.
Okay,
So they've made those changes. This is a review, which you think it's tough to get a quorum. We have advertised for the public for letters of interest on this bylaw committee for the last year. And so, and the moderator has as well. Nobody has been interested.
So you haven't even started the bylaw committee.
No, we can't put the committee together.
Okay, so is this bylaw committee every 5 years by statute?
No, by charter here.
By charter. So could this committee then say the bylaw review happens every 10 years and it's on the years that are in 5? That end in 5, and then 0 are the years that it's the charter, 5s are in the years that it's the bylaw? If there's a mechanism to deal with an emergency bylaw change by just going directly to town meeting, then maybe we only need to look at them every 10 years.
Or we need to come up with an alternative to volunteers. That in the absence of sufficient volunteers, the bylaws shall be reviewed by, pick somebody.
Well, I
So
mean,
the
we could say
committee
that-
is going to consist of the town clerk who serves as virtue of the office, 2 representative town meeting members appointed by the town moderator, 2 persons appointed by the select board. Set
So
file.
we have four volunteers that we need. Is that, am I reading that right?
Yes.
Yes,
And the town clerk would have a vote.
Yeah.
So then that would be an odd number, a 5-member.
Mhm.
That is sad. That it's 5 people.
It's been very difficult, and we've advertised it, multiple times at the select board meetings, and I know Melissa has been trying to find people. You also, you don't want to put people on the committee just to fill the position, and because
aren't-
nothing will get done. So they have to really be interested in it, and frankly, it's not a very interesting topic for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
it's
What
been
is the
tough.
Don, what is the commitment? Like, how often will they meet? Will it be also bi-monthly, or what is the,
It's really, that's up to the committee to decide when they are formed.
okay.
They could try and get it all done in a month, meet, every day, or they could.
Well, I
have,
just wasn't thinking if you were volunteering, you're trying to convince someone, you can kind of give them a scope of, what they're getting themselves into,
Yeah,
right? Because again, I think, someone, they may, who, certainly has a law degree, this actually may be, something that, they could put on the resume, so to speak. I don't know, and, delve into, I mean,
yeah, because
Not-
it's not easy
but-
with the bylaws because, there's a lot of bylaws and they do get enacted at town meetings a lot of times separately. So you have to go back and make sure that the bylaws
Right.
are consistent with other bylaws. So it can be difficult to
mhm.
kind of remember where something else applies and go back and make sure you're being consistent.
Well, this is so much fun that we can just roll this committee over into the bylaw committee when we're done with the charter.
Yeah,
That's right.
So the town clerk doesn't do that with town council. I know that when they adopted this E-code, we were told that town council and the clerk had to go through and make sure that the way the language used was.
Yeah, we did.
appropriate.
We did clean it up some, but
Because
we
what,
didn't go through all the substantive. We looked more at the procedural issues.
I
But
guess
I'm
what-
also oh, go ahead, Terry, sorry.
what is the point of reviewing the bylaws? What would the bylaw committee be trying to accomplish?
sort of the same thing we're doing here with this, it's making sure it's up to date, making sure it's consistent, it's correct, correcting errors, but also going through and see if something just does not apply anymore, needs to be corrected.
But to me, that sounds like it's, I mean, sometimes with this meeting, I feel like these are things that could be done, except they're required to be done by the charter, but correcting grammar, bringing things up to date, that to me is something that could be done, by a clerk, and if necessary, consult from the town council. So I guess I'm just wondering, is there a need for this? Is it required by law that we have a bylaw review committee?
No?
But I
It sounds like
represent, I represent another town and we have bylaws from the 50s and nobody's reviewed their bylaws.
Oh, Jesus.
A lot of them don't
I-
make any sense.
I think it makes sense to have it. The fact that it happens every 5 years, and if Anthony has to sit at that meeting as well as our meeting in the years ending in 0, that's too much.
I think so too, especially
It
because,
sounds like a great project for the law school at UMass Dartmouth to maybe have somebody review for grammar, review
Problem
for,
with that is if you don't know municipal law, I mean, municipal law is a pretty unique
Yeah,
area of
but a
practice.
bylaw committee doesn't know municipal law. That's my point. If the bylaw committee has no authority and needs help understanding what's appropriate and what's not, they don't know whether law has changed, whether there's a need to update something. To me, it seems purposeless. It's not like they can come in and say, we don't like that law that this department developed. They have no standing to say they don't agree with it if they're not a member of the board or.
right. And I guess I'll piggyback a little bit on what Terry's saying is that Anthony, you do a lot of that work for us, kind of giving us the sense of the history and, the municipal standards that, and the state laws. I mean, you and Sean are, really filling in those details as well. But I think that she exists, but I would, hedge towards what Heidi is saying about if it's not mandated for us to have it every 5 years, maybe it makes sense, and maybe we tap into the same people or similar people to do it, because I just like you guys so much, do it every 10, but to alternate. I mean,
Yeah.
You
every
You might
10
not like us in
years.
5 years. You might like us
Yeah.
now, but
Right, but if we did it for each year ending in 5, then we're doing it every 10 years, and maybe we have a shot that
Right.
someone who was on this board, which is larger, can be one of the 4 members, because Sarah's going to be there, or
Okay.
whoever is sitting in that seat.
and just a quick,
Um,
I'm sorry, Heidi, I didn't mean to
Go
jump in,
ahead,
but
no, Mary, go ahead.
right, because I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm like just looking at the screen, not seeing your faces. But just that last line, it says copies of the revised bylaws shall be made available. And again, this gets back to the other piece, at a charge not to exceed the actual cost, as well as on our website, on the town website. Is that something that we can kind of amend there in some language that's reflective of the times?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, okay. That was my only, thing that stood out to me. But but I do think, yeah, we need to fill, it's not doing us any good if you can't get people there on it right now. So
Right,
yeah, but it might make the job of the charter review committee easier too, if you do have some, people who are on this who then, and vice versa. It might kind of, and enrich, have someone new on the bylaws who ends up being rolled over into, this committee in, 5 years, 10 years hence. So
I think it's important for people, if they're volunteering, to feel like what they're doing is worthwhile, because there's nothing that's going to kill that volunteer spirit, but spending hours doing something that really doesn't make any difference. And I just feel like this committee, it doesn't sound like they have authority to change anything. They could certainly question, but anybody could question, and they could go to the board themselves and question it. To me, as long as the bylaws are updated on the website and, they're kept with current, I don't know what the purpose of this is. And I get what you're saying, Heidi, alternate it, but I'm just wondering if it's even really worthwhile. Why do we have that?
well, we
wasn't
don't have
now because
authority to
it's been-
change anything. We just make them recommendations on the charter to town meeting. So it's the
But
same.
I-
They wouldn't have the authority to recommend it, but
I don't know if it's true of everybody here, but I think people joined this committee because they thought there was a job to be done, and they thought something needed to be reviewed and make recommendations. It doesn't, I guess if somebody could give me an example of this working for people and being.
bylaw?
important.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that the purpose of this item in the charter is much like the charter review. It's not, maybe the doing it every 5 years is not the best means, but it's really just saying, hey, take the opportunity to go back and look through the bylaws and make sure that they're up to date, or someone review them, or as a group, so that we know we're on the right path and we don't have antiquated bylaws, or they're just not off. So it's really just a set of eyes to look at them regularly and putting it in the charter to make sure it actually gets done. And that would
Anthony,
be- Yeah.
oh, sorry. Anthony, can you give
sorry.
an example of that, town that you represented that has like an antiquated bylaw, just to give Terry that sense of, that's a ridiculous bylaw. I mean, that a committee, what a committee's recommendation might be.
Yeah,
to-
well, they're gonna go through and they're gonna pick something and go, wow, this doesn't even make any sense anymore. We should have it changed. And so if it's a bylaw that, if it's a wetlands bylaw, for instance, then they would bring it to the Concom to have their, they'd flag it for the Concom to look at.
Yeah.
Can we, would it be okay if we just got rid of the wording 5 or a 0 and just said every year ending in a 5? So that you wouldn't be doing it twice. You do it, we're ending in 0 for the charter, and if the year ends in a 5, we do the bylaws.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that. Plus, I think at the end, in that last line, we also add on the website.
Yeah.
And then we start thinking of how we can forward names to the town moderator and or members of the select board to say, here's a friend that I think would join this committee. And we should certainly talk to a few people ourselves and see if we can get this
Fine.
group started. And or hold off, because if we can get it to start on the year that ends in a 5, they've got, almost 3 more years to, before they're called upon. All right, let's move down. We are at 7:19. Let's go down to section 6.8, procedures governing multiple member bodies. A goes on to 2 pages. I'll let you read that without my yammering.
So I think we just need to update the delivered to the residence or place of business of each member. Because again, that's not happening now. We're certainly using, electronic email.
Electronic.
Yeah, so we just need to adjust that language.
Although in such places and times, we're now meeting remotely. Should we
Right, that
allow-
was my other concern. It doesn't talk about that as an option.
No, I think it's time to add it as
There's
allowed.
not-
Yep.
It's not allowed as an option except under emergency order, right?
No, the emergency order's over. We've been.
It's
extending it.
legislation now.
Oh,
So we're including remote as allowed under state or federal legislation or
Mhm.
otherwise.
Right.
Is there an example of a single member body?
No.
Town moderator.
Oh, look at
Right.
that. You're right.
I think that those additions of talking about, a remote meeting and delivery through email. If someone didn't have email, I'm sure we would. I love how it says, or place of business.
Yeah.
Should be delivered to their residence. They're supposed to be a town resident. I think that's,
Yeah, I think we can get rid of each member.
yeah.
That's. Yeah, I mean, I think we can get delivered to we can keep the residents so that we're kind of,
In
again.
case someone doesn't have access.
Right.
If requested, I don't know if that, we can
I
put
mean,
that way. The
yeah.
person needs to request that it comes to them. I don't know.
I don't know if that's really the reality in this day and age.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're not gonna look at this for another 10 years, I mean, the rate we're going, it's not, people don't get newspapers anymore delivered.
Right.
We don't, I know in the past, there was, for boards and committees, the staff would hand deliver packets.
Yeah.
We're eliminating
remember
that.
that.
That's yeah, those days are
Yeah.
over.
So I mean, I guess but I think to that point, if we have to cover ourselves, we can say if requested, and that way, when they get back, that we don't have to deliver it. Just it's if requested in special circumstances, but the emphasis would be on, via email. I don't know, just.
I think,
we need-
it will be made available at the town offices and not delivered.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's a good idea.
Mhm. Let's lessen the burden on our staff.
Okay, I'm just capturing it. Next section B, rules.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, do we really need to have that on the website? I don't know. And I think but that's more like, I think Anthony and Sean would have a better sense of whether or not, I think that's pretty straightforward.
I think generally they follow Robert's Rules of Order, right, Anthony?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, Robert's rules are pretty convoluted. I'm a parliamentarian for a big organization, and they can be. It's usually they follow a modified version of that.
Mhm.
It's pretty.
We've lost you, Anthony.
I'm sorry. Okay, you can't hear me?
Now we
There.
can.
Oh,
I think when you turned your head.
my
you did.
voice gets low as it gets later at night. I don't know why I do municipal law because I go to a lot of night meetings. For some reason, my voice dies out after like 7 o'clock. Seriously, it does. No, I said maybe a modified version of Robert's Rules of Order because the Robert's Rules of Order are pretty convoluted.
Mhm.
I'm a
Right.
I just
parliamentarian
don't-
for some group in there.
I think that it's saying, shall determine its own rules and order
Yeah.
of business. Seems a
Sounds
little
dangerous.
loose, but
Oh, I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
the board can make up its own rules and regulations.
yeah,
I mean,
their own
we do
agenda
that like
and-
with the ZBA, will
Right.
have its own rules, and it's important that they have rules because we'll use them sometimes. I don't know, in helping if we're doing an enforcement measure or something. We rely on I don't see any harm in it. I
mhm.
mean, it's kind of.
No, I think I think it reads fine.
Can
I'm
I circle?
also, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
no,
Mary.
No, I just was, Heidi, since you brought up, and just kind of keeping in our bonnet, so to speak, about making sure that there's some consistency and, so I don't know where it is with the boards, because that I guess becomes when we talk about communications and making their own rules. If we are making that adjustment and, compelling boards to have some sort of uniformity in reporting or communicating, where would we put that? Is that, again, if we're talking about rules, this is kind of says they're self-governing, but is there any expectation that there's going to be a common reporting out? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I'm just thinking back, Heidi, when you said there's a
Yep.
problem, everybody said there's a problem if DPW is not, and Terry said too. So where would that go if we're trying to?
Does every multiple member board submit a report to the annual town report.
Yes. Pretty much, yes.
Well, they
I'm trying to
should.
think one that doesn't. Anthony, you might
Either a
know.
board or the department submits it on behalf of the board or commission
Okay,
cases.
They all post agendas and post their.
They have to,
meeting
they have
minutes?
to post agendas. That's an open meeting law.
What about
Okay.
the meeting minutes?
Same thing. They have to approve them and make them available. That's open meeting law.
Is there a time frame on it, Anthony? That they have to make those?
Yeah, that is. It's within 30 days or the next meeting, whichever's later.
Yeah.
so will they be compelled, if we make the changes here, will they all be compelled to post those minutes on our town website? And the-
Yeah, so the website was certified by the state as the official posting method for the town years ago. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. So that is so when you go to the website, there's a calendar and minutes and agendas are posted on there.
Yeah, I know ours are, okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Which is funny that that's allowed to be certified, but they still want all this stuff advertised in the newspaper at the same time. So
All right.
my dad's still,
C was removed, and I think Anthony said that it's already covered by law, which was the voting piece. And for whatever reason, D has never existed.
okay, so now,
No, I'm looking in the original one and it went from C to E. So we never had a D. And then E talks about quorum. A majority of the members of the multiple member body shall constitute a quorum, but a smaller number may adjourn from time to time and may compel the attendance of absent members in the manner and subject to the penalties prescribed by the rules of the affirmative vote of the majority or the full multiple member body.
yeah, this looks like it's gonna require a conversation. I know it's like 7:30. I'm just looking at,
Hey, can somebody shut the door?
excuse me?
Nobody shut the door. Sorry,
Oh, no, it's
my house is a barn right now.
not as much as mine.
Hmm,
I like Anthony's
They adjourn
comment
from
here.
time
Is
to
it
time.
public shaming? Is that what we do?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, what?
How do we compel somebody to attend? I'd like to know. that.
right. To the penalties prescribed by the rules. I don't know.
We don't have any penalties, do we? I mean, there's nothing listed. as
No.
prescribed.
Or are
Well,
they
the
just,
select board- The select board.
No,
has
it's saying a
to be
majority of the
attended.
board may compel
I don't know.
the members. So in other words, they can make up their own rules. I don't know that this is, I don't like it. I don't know that it's legal, to be honest with you.
Is there like
What
a,
if they're elected? If they're elected, the way you punish them is you say they never show up. So then you elect somebody else next time around.
right,
So
But
the
I-
select board decides because one member doesn't show up a lot, they can punish them. I don't.
I
Water
also
Wave
don't
was
understand, but it says,
flogging.
but a smaller number may adjourn from time to time. But
Where you talking?
if you don't have a quorum, you can't act on the agenda.
right?
You can meet, but you can't vote.
Yeah, you
Right.
can adjourn.
And I don't understand may
I just
adjourn.
don't think we need it. I think the whole section should just go away. It's controlled by the open meeting law.
I agree.
Mhm. Let's do that.
I'm gonna say I agree. I don't think that there's anything in there.
That seems more problematic than helpful.
Hmm.
On the prior, I'm sorry,
That's
Heidi,
okay.
on the prior section on A, I had it on the side to add excluding executive sessions. I don't think we have to because it's addressed in the law, correct? About the journals and
Oh, you mean the minutes,
Yes,
to accept the minutes and post the minutes?
yeah, we don't have to add excluding executive session in, do we? I mean, could somebody come and challenge the fact that we're not making those public?
Executive
Okay.
session minutes?
You
Yeah.
have to make them public as soon as the purpose for which executive session was called no longer exists.
Right.
There's
That's-
state guidelines on executive session minutes.
So it's not the same, yes, it's different than the regular.
And if we don't put it here, the state law covers it.
Supersedes,
Right,
okay.
and I don't think we can change the open meeting law. Certain things we can't change, so
And the open meeting law does not, isn't the
Addresses-
opposite of an executive session.
Right, well,
So-
yeah,
oh, the open meeting law governs executive
it
session as well.
addresses
Well, as
it,
far as
yeah.
like starting, because we vote to adjourn our meeting to go into an executive session
Mhm.
and maybe not return to our open meeting.
Right. But
And
we don't
then
have,
what's covered is a separate document of meeting minutes, which, as someone stated, will only be released after the discussion has been
concluded, like the topic.
concluded. Yeah,
So if you
Yeah,
were
and that's
discussing a
fine.
lawsuit and in executive session, but that lawsuit took you 2 years to resolve, so you wouldn't release those minutes for more than 2 years.
Okay. So the quorum we're getting rid of?
Yes.
I think so. I don't think it has anything, it doesn't say anything there that
Yeah.
isn't said in open meeting law. So the big piece for now is filling of vacancies on appointed multiple member bodies.
I do think that the quorum, like, though, brings up a question. How is a committee to respond if a member, and again, it's a non-elected member? I know that we have, I guess maybe like, we could talk about this committee, but how do you deal with, I know you're kind of saying election, but if someone doesn't come and you can't actually meet a quorum, what is that committee's recourse?
So if you're appointed to a committee by the select board, what the select board does is they ask all the committees to keep attendance. So, and then every year at the annual reappointments, they review the attendance records of committee members, and if someone isn't showing up on the committee they've been appointed to, the select board will not reappoint them.
Okay. That's helpful. So election, obviously you're elected or not, you just get, booted out, so to speak, or not reelected. And okay, thank you.
Actually, I think it's easier to be appointed and not get the appointment. Sometimes people continually are elected to positions that they're not showing up to, or boards that they're not showing up to.
Right. For town meeting.
Yep. I think the filling of the vacancy, I think this sounds fine. And I guess what you said is you almost have to wait till that annual appointment. And then you state that the group says this person didn't attend and therefore you should find somebody else to be appointed. But mid-work, it's hard if that person's not coming.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog.
But I think F sounds like what happens.
And the other problem is there's not a lot of people that are looking to be appointed. So if you have a committee, it's not
Not
like
a-
if you don't reappoint them, you've got someone waiting in the wings to take their
Let
spot.
me in, let me in.
I think there's just like a lack of understanding too, about just town government and what it does and its impact. You know, and realistically, it has much more impact on our lives in a lot of ways than a lot of our, you know, federal, you know, initiatives that people are so much more wound up about. But I just don't think it's part of, you know, again, people's awareness. I don't know. So it's, you know, there's that gap in, maybe it's PR. I don't know, but I don't know.
I mean, one of the issues we find is that, you know, people want to get involved and make a difference, and then they join a committee or a board and government moves slow and they want to come in and say, we need to change this now. This needs to change, that needs to change. And it's like, well, no. Yes, we can change, but it takes time and you've got to go through the process. Then you have to go to town meeting and it may not pass. And then you have to, you know, maybe go back to town meeting. So people don't like that.
Yeah, no. My dad is a municipal attorney, so I grew up
Yeah.
with this. So
Patience is a virtue, right? So, but
Yeah.
you know, things do get done. It just takes time, and you know, it's not always glamorous. These meetings are important, but they're not always glamorous.
We are over time, but I want us to look at, I think the F, filling the vacancies, looks fine as written.
yeah, me too.
And we'll end on composition of multiple member bodies. If you take a moment and read through that.
I think that's fine.
That's,
That's pretty
Great.
standard.
All right.
Well,
So
thank you very much, Heidi, for orchestrating
you're
this.
welcome.
Yeah.
Does someone have a statement they'd like to say?
I
Someone
vote,
interested in adjournment?
I
second
vote,
it.
I move to adjourn.
I'd second it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mary and Steve. Before I call that, I will just say that our next meeting as of right now looks like it is December 22nd. Anthony may not be with us at that time. And at that
I didn't say I
meeting,
won't be with you. I said I won't be able to do section 7 by that.
no, because what I'm saying is that night, we are only as a group going to go through section 6-9 and 6-10.
Okay,
Unless
If
I
it-
get section 7 done, but I don't have
Well,
many days to do that.
We have other things to do in our lives on December 22nd.
Right. so
Leading up
why
to
would you-
December 23rd, 24th, 25th. So I think if we can get through that, then we will look for section 7 for our first meeting in January.
all right. Well, thank you, Heidi.
Not until January 12th, Anthony, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Heidi.
I will now call roll for an adjournment. Does anyone have anything else to say?
No.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Nice to
Everyone.
get something done.
Thank you.
So
Right.
to adjourn, Heidi says yes. David Cunha,
Yes.
Terry Ham,
Yes.
Steve Mello,
Yes.
Chris O'Neill,
Yes.
Mary Waite.
Yes. you.
I will see you all December 22nd.
Okay.
Kiss that baby for me,
With
my
it,
God.
nod.
Reagan.
Thank
And
you.
all of you, please keep Sean and his family in your thoughts.
Yes, yes.
Will do.
Thank you.